Tomahawk Team, Saving Arctic Wildlife. One bear at a time. Tomahawk Team, Saving Arctic Wildlife. One bear at a time, deep in the icy expanse of the Arctic, where the sun barely touches the horizon during the long winters, the Tomahawk Team worked tirelessly to save one of the most iconic animals of the frozen world, the polar bear. Named after an indigenous term for warrior, the Tomahawk Team embodied the spirit of resilience and dedication to the protection of the natural world. They were on a mission to preserve the fragile ecosystems of the Arctic, and most importantly, to protect the polar bears who were increasingly facing extinction. The world had begun to notice the drastic changes unfolding in the Arctic. Rising temperatures, melting sea ice, and shifting habitats were slowly but surely altering the landscape. These changes were not only affecting the Arctic's biodiversity, but were also putting immense pressure on the animals that called the region home. Among these, the polar bear, which had long been considered a symbol of the Arctic's untamed wilderness, was the most vulnerable. The beginning of the Tomahawk Team. Dr. Lena Salvo, a seasoned biologist with a passion for conservation, had spent years studying the Arctic. With her background in environmental science and her commitment to understanding the delicate balance of life in the region, she became the natural leader of the Tomahawk Team. But the team was more than just scientists. It was a diverse group of passionate individuals, wildlife trackers, indigenous elders, climate change activists, and animal rescue experts, each bringing unique skills and perspectives to the table. Dr. Salvo's team was united by one singular goal: saving the polar bears from the brink of extinction. They knew the challenges were immense. The melting sea ice was shrinking faster than they could study it, and polar bears were increasingly stranded on smaller, unstable chunks of ice. But rather than seeing these challenges as obstacles, the Tomahawk Team saw them as an urgent call to action. The struggles of the polar bears. Polar bears, at the top of the Arctic food chain, relied heavily on sea ice for hunting. Seals, their primary food source, used the ice as a platform to haul out and breed. As the ice melted, the bears were forced to travel longer distances to find food, often exhausting themselves in the process. For the mothers and their cubs, the situation was even worse. The shrinking ice made it more difficult for them to reach hunting grounds, and many cubs were dying from malnutrition and the extreme cold. The Tomahawk Team had witnessed this firsthand during their expeditions. They had seen the slow, painful decline of a population that was once abundant, and it was clear that time was running out. It wasn't just the polar bears that were at risk, it was the entire ecosystem of the Arctic. If the polar bears disappeared, the ripple effects would devastate countless other species, from seals and fish to seabirds and Arctic foxes. But there was hope. The Tomahawk Team believed that, with concerted effort and collaboration, they could make a difference. Their mission was clear: save the polar bears, and in doing so, protect the Arctic ecosystem for future generations. A desperate rescue mission. One of the most harrowing moments for the team came during the height of a brutal Arctic winter. A distress signal came in from a research station located on the edge of the ice sheet. A young polar bear had been found stranded on a small, rapidly melting ice floe. The bear, barely a year old, was starving and unable to find solid ground. Without hesitation, Dr. Salvo and her team gathered their equipment and set out for the station. The journey to the station was long and dangerous. They crossed miles of icy terrain, braving snowstorms and freezing temperatures that made the landscape appear as a cold, inhospitable wasteland. The team traveled by snowmobiles, sleds, and even on foot when necessary, following the trail of radio signals from the stranded bear. When they arrived, the situation was dire. The young bear, weak and trembling, could barely keep its eyes open. It had not eaten in days and was visibly malnourished. But it wasn't just the bear's physical condition that concerned them. It was also the psychological toll that the isolation and harsh conditions had taken on it. The team quickly moved into action. Dr. Salvo and her colleagues gently approached the bear, speaking in calm, soothing tones to avoid frightening it further. They used specialized rescue equipment designed for handling polar bears in distress, ensuring that the animal remained as comfortable as possible while being transported. They knew that the young bear's survival depended not only on physical care, but also on ensuring that it felt safe and secure during the journey. Hours later, the team had successfully relocated the bear to a more stable patch of sea ice. Though the journey had been